Hey guys, how's it going? Master Cal here, and today I'm going to be doing the 6th video of my 2021 NFL offseason preview series, and this will be for the Philadelphia Eagles. So in 3 years, the Eagles have gone from Super Bowl champions dethroning the New England Patriots in 2017 to a 4-12-1 season that was last in what was easily the worst division in the NFL in 2020. And that resulted in head coach Doug Peterson getting fired. Again, just 3 seasons after leading Philly to a Super Bowl victory. Most alarming about that season was Carson Wentz's regression, as he was I think he was the second worst quarterback in the NFL last year, behind Sam Darnold, as he struggled with picks and fumbles and bad decisions. He took a lot of sacks, which I think can be attributed to an offensive line that was just demolished by injuries, and also a below average receiving unit that also dealt with injuries. But still, Wentz going from an MVP caliber season to now being benched for Jalen Hurts, and uncertainty about his future, as he's been mentioned in trade talks this offseason, but no one's been willing to bite on him so far. So without further ado, let's get into their starters. So obviously, as far as things stand right now, Wentz is still under contract for the Philadelphia Eagles, with his 4-year extension kicking in this offseason. And again, not everything that happened last year was Wentz's fault, but Wentz definitely didn't make things any better, and now the question is going to be do the Eagles find a taker for Wentz? And it doesn't sound like anybody right now is willing to give up even a first-round pick to acquire him. And from the Eagles' perspective, it doesn't sound like they want to move him unless they get what they deem to be a fair market price for him, which their initial asks were the same return, but what the Lions got for Matthew Stafford, so that's going to be hard for them to bite. It sounds like they are at least okay with keeping Wentz and having him and Hurts compete in training camp to start, but Wentz could also end up forcing the issue at some point as well, so that's a situation to keep an eye on for the next few weeks and even months. Miles Sanders is their starter at running back, a second-rounder in 2019 out of Penn State, following Saquon Barkley to the NFL. And Sanders has been pretty solid in his time in the league. He hasn't been as flashy as Barkley obviously has been in the NFL, but he's been a very effective running back for the team. And then the offensive line, again, I mentioned this earlier, just decimated by injuries. And the first guy, Andre Dillard, did not even play at all during the season. He suffered a biceps injury during training camp. Dillard was the Eagles' first-round pick in 2019. He struggled initially as a rookie, playing for the then-injured Jason Peters, but his play got better as the season gone on, and he was expected to be the starter at left tackle, but that injury changed that, and now Dillard's hold on the job may not be secure, as it's possible he may have to fend off Jordan Mailata or an off-season addition to start at left tackle. Isaac Sumala will start at left guard, a third-round pick in 2016 by Philly. He's got 2 seasons remaining on his current deal. He's been a pretty solid performer for them. He only played, I think, about half the season because of injuries. Jason Kelce at center was the only guy who played all 16 games for the Eagles on that offensive line, so at least there's some measure of consistency there. His play is still strong. There have been some whispers that he might end up retiring, however. So if he does, obviously that's a pretty big void that the Eagles will have to fill. At right guard is Brandon Brooks, who in 2019 was one of the best guards in the NFL. Unfortunately, he did not play at all in 2020 because of an Achilles injury he suffered during a workout. So the Eagles will be hoping to get him back. And then Lane Johnson at right tackle. Johnson is one of the better right tackles in the game, but he also dealt with myriad issues, from COVID bouts to other injuries that kept him from seeing a lot of game action. So Philly will just be hoping that their offensive line, which they've invested a lot of draft capital and cap space into, will just be healthier next year. So wide receiver, you got Alshon Jeffrey, who was injured for a lot of last year, recovering from a Lisfranc injury, and when he was recovered, he didn't see a whole lot of action. Jeffrey has gone from the Eagles' top option in 2017 and 2018 to being a locker room liability and an injury-prone player. Deshaun Jackson is the other wide receiver. He's set to enter the final year of his 3-year contract in his second stint with the Eagles, obviously way back in like 2008, so I think like 2013, 14 was his first stint with the Eagles before he was cut by then head coach Chip Kelly. Unfortunately, Jackson has barely played in his second trip with the Eagles. He's missed a significant time due to injuries, both in 2019 and in 2020. Their number 3 wide receiver is Marquise Goodwin, who did not play at all last year because he ended up opting out of the season because of COVID. Goodwin was acquired during the 2020 draft from the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for a late-round draft pick, and they reworked his deal to a 1-year deal, which means Goodwin will be a free agent after the season. Goodwin was a key piece of the Niners' offense in 2017 and 2018. He did have some injuries in 2018, and then he lost playing time in 2019 as well. And then as a result, the Niners elected to move on from him. Zach Ertz is at tight end, the Eagles' other first-round pick in 2013, along with Lane Johnson. Ertz has been, the past few years, one of the better tight ends in the game, along with Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Unfortunately, Ertz had a very disappointing year as he also missed time because of injuries and wasn't as effective when on the field. And with Dallas Goedert breathing down his neck and looking for a new deal, Ertz's time in Philadelphia may be coming to an end. Heading over to the defensive side, you got Brandon Graham, their first rounder in 2010. Graham has always been a very solid pass rusher, and he was finally selected to a Pro Bowl this past year, so he's still playing at a very high level. Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave up the middle. Cox has been with the Eagles for quite some time now, and he's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the game still. Hargrave joined the Eagles this past season on a 4-year deal as a free agent after a very good 2019 contract year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Derek Barnett, former first-rounder in 2017 out of Tennessee. He has not lived up to his first-round billing, as he has not been a very consistent pass rusher despite being on a very strong defensive line as a whole. He is set to enter the 5th-year option of his rookie deal, which his draft class is the last draft class under the old CBA, where the 5th-year option is not fully guaranteed up until the new league year. So we'll see if the Eagles are going to keep him. At linebacker, they got 3 young guys: Davion Taylor, who was a 3rd-rounder last year out of Colorado; T.J. Edwards, an undrafted sign in 2019 out of Wisconsin, who the Eagles are very high on, but his play has not yet lived up to those expectations yet. And then Sean Bradley, who I think was a 6th-rounder in last year's draft. Those guys mostly saw a lot of special teams action. At cornerback, you got Darius Big Play Slay, obviously a longtime Lion. The Eagles acquired him in a trade with the Lions last offseason and signed him to an extension. Unfortunately, Slay had by far the worst season of his career, which is ominous because of him obviously entering that 3-year extension. Avonte Maddox at cornerback, 4th-rounder in 2018. He's been in and out of the lineup and hasn't been able to solidify a starting job. Craig James in the slot is mostly a special teamer who has been thrust into starting at times because of injuries in their secondary. As far as safety goes, you got Rodney McLeod, who is entering, I think, his 7th season with the Eagles after spending his first few years with the Rams. McLeod unfortunately suffered an ACL tear at the end of the season, so he'll be recovering from that. And then at other safety is Kayvon Wallace, a 4th-rounder in 2020 out of Clemson, who is mostly a special teamer as a rookie. On special teams, you got Rick Lovato as the long snapper, Demi Lovato's husband, by the way. They do not have a punter at the moment under contract, and at kicker, you got Jake Elliott, who's been a pretty good contributor for them the past 4 or so years. So taking a look at their free agents, you have Jason Peters. Obviously, he's been the Eagles' longtime left tackle for a long time now. He was supposed to be displaced by Dillard, but then the injury to Dillard happened, and then Peters And then Peters was in and out of the lineup because of injury, starting at guard and tackle. And the indications are that the Eagles will probably finally move on from him. Peters still wants to keep on playing though, so he will probably be a decent enough stopgap option for a contending team that needs tackle play. Safety Jalen Mills, who was their starter last year. Backup quarterback Nate Sudfeld. Slot corner Nikel Roby-Coleman. Edge rusher Vinny Curry. Defensive tackle Hassan Ridgeway. Cornerback Cravon LeBlanc. Tight end Richard Rodgers. Yes, that same Richard Rodgers who caught that Hail Mary pass from Aaron Rodgers when he was with the Packers against the Lions back in 2015. Linebacker Duke Riley. Defensive tackle T.Y. McGill, who was already re-signed on a one-year deal with Philly. Running back Corey Clement. Punter Cameron Johnston is a restricted free agent. Tight end Josh Perkins is a restricted free agent. Safety Rudy Ford. Running back Boston Scott is an exclusive rights free agent. Linebacker Alex Singleton is an exclusive rights free agent. He saw the most defensive action of anybody in that linebacking core last year. And then wide receiver Greg Ward is an exclusive rights free agent as well. The Eagles right now have the second worst cap situation in the entire NFL, as they are currently about they're about currently $50 million over the cap. As things stand right now, the Eagles have since made two restructuring moves to save cap space. They restructured Alshon Jeffries and also defensive tackle Malik Jackson's contracts. And what that did was it allowed them to maximize the savings when they were post June 1st cuts. So the expectation is that Jeffrey and Malik Jackson will be the team's two post June 1st cuts. So other cap casualties they could possibly have, I guess we should mention Kelsey. I don't think the Eagles will release him outright, but he could end up retiring, which would save them some cap space. Deshaun Jackson is going to be an easy cut. Marquise Goodwin is probably going to get released. Zach Ertz's name has come up a lot in trade talks. There's also been talk that the Eagles might try to bundle him and Wentz together in a trade to see if they can get someone to bite. Otherwise, the Eagles seem likely to release him and roll with Goddard as their starting tight end. I don't believe they'll release Graham because he's still playing very well, so an extension for him to lower his cap hit could be in the cards. Barnett is probably a cap casualty because he has a cap hit of over $10 million, and the Eagles can save all of that if they release him before March 17th. Darius Slay's contract is not movable. Rodney McLeod, cutting him would not save a whole lot of cap space, so I think the Eagles will keep him. They may have to start thinking about a replacement for him, obviously because of that injury. So, yeah. Trading Wentz is not really going to do a whole lot of favors for or against the Eagles' cap situation, and the presumed deadline to trade Wentz would be before he has a $10 million roster bonus, which is due, I think, like 3 or 5 days, I forget which, after the new league year, or a week or something like that. So before that roster bonus is due, or I guess maybe after or during training camp, if he doesn't beat out Jalen Hurts for the starting job. So, new head coach Nick Sirianni has a lot of work to do ahead of him to try to fix a lot of the issues that plagued Philadelphia last year on both sides of the football, along with the previous head coach Doug Peterson clashing with the front office and ownership as far as the direction of where the team was going. And we will see what the Eagles look like after they tear down the roster. As far as needs for the Eagles go, definitely wide receiver is a big need, especially if they're going to be cutting their top 3 receivers, Jackson, Jeffrey, and Goodwin. That means the next guys up for wide receiver would be Travis Fulgham, who has been all around the league as a late-round pick. I think he's with the Lions and the Packers and like one other team as well. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor, who were second rounder in 2019 and first rounder last year in 2020, but neither of them has fared particularly well so far. So upgrading at wide receiver will be imperative for the Eagles. Adding another defensive lineman if they, assuming they do cut Barnett. They could probably use an upgrade at linebacker, and they could also definitely use an upgrade at cornerback as well. So those would be the Philadelphia Eagles' needs. And that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next video in my 2021 NFL offseason preview series.